that's fine.
But we do have a lot of internal things that we need.
Well, okay, but could we have a couple of people, just like Brian has said, a couple of people, we still have to have a, obviously to have the committee, right? Because, yeah, okay.
If it's a standing committee, keep in mind, the committee, the scope of it, or the membership can be limited to board members. In the policy itself, it says committee members may include both board members and non-board members, depending on the committee's purpose. So the board controls, through the board president, who the members are and what the purpose of the committee is. And it would be a standing board committee.
So my frustration goes back to before I was on the board. And when I was part of some of the other folks that were involved in trying to put out information with the last referendum. It wasn't pro, it wasn't con, it was strictly information. And if I relied on the board to do that, nobody would know anything. So as a public citizen, you know, me and some other folks took it upon ourselves to do that. And frankly, I see the board going down the same path again. And we owe it better to the people to do that. I mean, that's not acceptable. It's not.
I do also, because the whole thing Saturday with Communication Summit, nowhere is it listed on the agenda that we're even going to discuss any of it. So we're going to show up Saturday, we're not going to know what's going on or what is actually being discussed. But I mean, that's part of communication. We should know going into it before it's out to the public that we're going to have a communication summit or have a meeting of some sort or some summit. We should know what's going on there and what we're going to talk about. And that's just a point I'm making. I mean, I agree exactly with what Jason is saying. We're, as board members, almost sitting ducks because we don't even know what's going to happen when we walk in there on Saturday. We don't have any clue. It went through in a week. A date was set without any board members having any at all say that it was going to be on Saturday, maybe Saturday work for you, no, this is what we're going to discuss. I mean, we just have to get better because our taxpayers, our people, everything is suffering from it.
What's the next step?
I do think it was discussed in a meeting, if I'm not, it was discussed in a meeting. Your last architect was here. He mentioned that it was going to be on Saturday. Am I correct?
I don't remember the date actually.
It was the date we discussed it. Now, we did not have a schedule, but I'm sure they're in the process of developing.
We didn't have a schedule. I mean, we didn't talk about it that, this Saturday.
But it was discussed and what date it would be on.
I don't remember the date. I remember we talked about
I
it.
do, I remember.
So I agree. So there's things that want to understand. What's the format of this thing? Are there questions that need to be prepared next time? We know when I agree. So this is just one example. It looks a whole lot like it.
If we start talking at that meeting, then we are acting as a board.
I don't think it's a board meeting. Is that
No,
correct?
it's not. It's not a board meeting.
It is not a board meeting.
So in fact, we need to stay away from each
The
other.
purpose of that meeting is not for the board to have a conversation about it. It's for your architects to disseminate the information that you've authorized them to do to the public. So the priority, as I'm understanding it, is it's for the public. It's not for the board, where they can take the information and disseminate it and take questions from the public.
Okay, but what information? We haven't authorized anything. Tonight we're not authorizing anything, really.
I don't know that we have to authorize it. Our architects are going to take care of that. That's what they're supposed to be doing.
Okay, I'm confused.
I would like to just mention one other thing as far as the communication is concerned. I just caught kind of the tail end of you guys, the food staff, talking about how you guys had put through questions and that sort of thing. And I have to say that I apologize because I was never given any concerns that you guys have been putting through. That whole scenario was, in my opinion, not necessarily looked at real thoroughly on our behalf yet. And I didn't realize that we were at that level, or that place, I guess, at this point. And I've yet to see any of that stuff, so I would be very interested as far as the communication is concerned. I would be very interested in hearing more from you later. Maybe we could get those questions and things given to the full board so that we could also communicate a little more effectively with you guys. Okay, so I apologize for that.
Is there anything else?
So we're going to table that policy and we'll make the revisions.
So are we revising it to mean that, okay, this isn't like a committee like we have for finance or the other things? Is that what we want to do?
So here's the question, the way it was stated, is that it's up to the board president to assign each of those votes. Can that be easily amended? So in other words, I guess I'm asking.
Well, no, that's just what it is. But I mean, I'm not gonna appoint somebody they don't want to do it.
No,
What do you mean?
I mean, yeah, I know, I've been following. I mean, if we wanted to, can you start that committee out where it is just board members and then add community members later if that's something we want to do? Does that solve that issue?
I think if we establish it as it is written there, we can do it as we want to. So if we want to work within the board itself first, we can do that, or if we want to approach the community and have people say what their concerns are, we can do it that way. Whatever we feel is needed to be done.
And to be honest, that's kind of the way that I thought it was going to go. I thought we were going to establish it within the board first. I thought we were going to try to figure out what we needed to do, what we wanted, what we were missing, and then when we needed to bring in community members as liaisons.
Well, and this committee doesn't really have any power. I mean, they looked at everything and then they come back and give it to the whole board, just like all of our other committees. I mean,
Okay, can we approve the motion for the first reading of this? And there's going to be a second, so if we want to think about this and we want to change something, we can do that, right? No?
I'd like to make a motion to table this item until we have revised the specific policy.
Second, please. Roll call.
Tuesday,
Sure, yes.
Becker,
Yes.
Hargrove.
Yes.
Bimbo,
Yes.
Mueller,
Yes.
Conley,
Yes.
Stegall.
yes.
Okay. Item B, a motion to approve the conceptual drawing for a potential new Midland Elementary School. You guys want to talk?
At the last meeting, we presented some updated, some revised, excuse me. At the last meeting, we provided some updated, slightly revised images and information for the new elementary school. And at that time, kind of at the end of that presentation, we also provided some very simple plan information on what potentially could happen under, I guess, a Plan B scenario if the referendum was not successful for something at the middle school. And at that time, we were asked to provide some additional expanded information about what might be possible at the middle school. And then we were also asked to provide a little more of an expanded budget for each school based upon sort of the very conceptual broad criteria that we had at this time. So maybe what we would do, what I thought we might do is kind of run through what we put together for the middle school, and you also have a packet for both the middle school and for the new elementary school in front of you, and some larger drawings. And then we also provided some larger drawings that the district can have. And they're on the stands over there, and then we have the PowerPoint information. So would that be acceptable? Okay. Yeah, why don't you kind of take them through the new middle school here.
Thanks, Tom. The middle school, the criteria that we were put forward, asked by the board was to put together an option for a $4.1 million budget for additions to the middle school. So the no criteria that we had at this time is that this school would become a pre-K through 8th grade school. Based on the dollars, we've come up with a concept and a potential solution. And currently, what that solution states is that we have 2 sections of pre-K, 3 sections of kindergarten, and then what we've done is we've tried to be creative with respect to housing the balance of the classrooms. We have 2 dedicated sections for 1 through 6 plus 4 classrooms. Now, it's a little, it sounds better, actually it's better than what it sounds because 6th grade actually has some transitional classes in the 7th and 8th grade wing, which basically remains pretty much unchanged. So the flex classrooms, I think, would reflect basically the population that currently the school district has. The anticipated funding, again, on this was $4.1 million. Now, there's certainly some, let's see how we get this, there we go. I'll get to that at the plan. I'll talk about some other potential maybe concerns that we have with this. So on an aerial view of this, you can kind of see the existing school, and off to the east with the new addition, how that would kind of lay out. And it doesn't affect the current field and the track that's out there as well. This seems to be the best location for the potential addition. Plan-wise, we would be looking at adding potentially up to 9 classrooms in this wing, and then do some other potential renovations to get us up to that $4.1 million budget. So we have about 9 classrooms in this wing, including there's a special ed classroom right there. We've got a little bit of work in one of the existing classrooms to eliminate a bathroom and level out a floor. We've got an area over here which is currently the pit, which we would be looking at perhaps making an art room as one option to put in there, and then create another exit out of this building and a fire area, which per current code we can do. We don't have to do it per the way the building stands as of now, but once we upgrade it, it'd be a good idea to do that. Expanded bathrooms as well, and then a secondary exit out of the cafeteria. Now, there are a couple of concerns with this configuration and this budget that we have. Computer labs, we don't have computer labs dedicated for grades 1 through 6. There's 2 special ed classrooms. We feel the need for 1 more would be beneficial. There's 1 dedicated OT-PT room. We feel that we should have 1 more room. A second library would be a big concern. To ask grade school children to walk from this wing to access the library all the way over here is definitely a concern. The kitchen and the cafeteria also is a concern of ours within this proposal. But we're limited on budget and we're trying to do the best we can. We have some imagery that you can see how the kind of the skeletal ghosting of what the existing school is, and then how the addition would play out on the east side here. And then just an image from another direction on the imagery. That's the board. If they have any questions on this.
I had asked last time in regards to possibly renovating the old ag shop storage area over here into a possible library. I thought that you said that was a possibility. Is that not something you're...
It is. It all depends how we want to allocate the dollars. So it is. So, for example, if that wanted to become a library and we're taking, again, working with the $4.1 million, if we wanted to pull dollars out of somewhere, let's say if we found that we can maybe eliminate classrooms or something, or not do the art room or something else, and allocate those dollars to renovate the old ag shop? Sure. This is just a concept on what you can do. The ultimate solution, you know, if this is the solution that we go with, we'll form we'd like to get a committee with board members and with community members to come to the ultimate solution that's going to be best for the school. So this is just one of the ways it could be solved.
Do you know what the cost is of adding that little bump out there for the computer lab in that corner room there?
Yeah, I think that's about 1,000 square feet, and roughly with the budget, you'd probably be talking somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000.
But you don't have any estimate yet as to what it would cost to renovate this other area over here yet?
No, and, you know, and certainly one thing we could do with that is, you know, we could come in, if this is the solution we go with, you know, something like that added room or this room is coming with an alternate bid solution for projects. It's done all the time, and this way we can see where the dollars are best allocated to.
Yeah, I think both with this solution for the middle school and with the solution for the new elementary building, I would say it kind of very broadly like this. At this stage of the game, anything is possible. You just can't do everything. You can only do what's available within the amount of money that you have, either whether it's 9.8 million or 4.1 million. And so, you know, we had the librarian come up and say, you know, having that pit area be the new library would be great. We didn't show that as the new library either under this scenario, because it really doesn't matter at this point in time. What we know is we have, I think on the budget there's about $300,000 for renovation allocated right now.
I think
$400,000.
also what we need to mention is that this is all subject to approval by the State Board of Education and the regional superintendent. When you get into additions, it has additional rules. For example, square footage, grades served. So this design would have to be approved by the State Board of Education and the regional superintendent. And until we get to that point, it is unknown if they will approve it or revise it, or tell us it doesn't meet their benchmarks. Am I correct when I say that?
I think that's a very correct statement. One of the things that they'll look at is equity between the existing building, the existing elementary school, and what's being added here. For example, if they say, you know what, these 9 classrooms just aren't enough because you have X number of classrooms at your new building, we'll have to put more money into classrooms and less money into renovating spaces. They could come up and say, you know what, it's just too far to walk from here to there for that library for those little kids. We're not going to improve this unless you build a new library. So there's all sorts of variables that we simply just can't account for. We could spend all day and all night and for the next month dreaming up scenarios, but it wouldn't matter. So you would think, but I would absolutely not guarantee it at this point in time. It kind of depends on, there's no set criteria that they use to do it. So
a good example of this, I'm sorry to interrupt you, was when we did this life safety survey in 2010, the architects put in the boiler as a necessary amendment. It was 1.7 million, I believe. It was adjusted out, and we filed an appeal 2 years later, and they put it back in. So you would think.
One of the things I noticed is that you're at $200 a square foot now on this. Is that accurate then for the middle
for the construction cost,
Okay.
not for the total project cost. Because if you would look, the total project cost drops down to, $4.1 million.
Okay.
But the $200 a square foot is simply for the stuff you see in red right there. Just the new construction, because we simply don't know.
Okay. I just thought you guys were at 185 before for new construction.
We were originally, and then, as I mentioned at the last meeting, we've had two separate contractors that build schools, both regionally and specifically in this area of Illinois. And one of them said, it's got to be $200, or you're not even close. The other one said, you need to be really $205 a square foot for that comparable number. So that's why we've got it up there. He was adding a little more contingency in, making that $205. So we feel reasonably comfortable with the $200 amount, but I wouldn't lower it at this stage of the game. Again, based on the quality of the conceptual information that we have.
The committee that you said that, this is what we end up doing, you will include teachers in that committee too, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Any other questions about the middle school? Yep.
I have a question, but it's not really for you. Maybe somebody, maybe one of Kathy or one of the luncheon staff can help answer this. Since we've increased the population going through the cafeteria here, how well has that been working? I mean, can any of you talk to that? Because that's going to make a big difference on realistically what we're looking at here. If that's something that we do or don't have to plan to for sure.
It's doing well. I mean, we put two tables out on the stage. If you would bring fifth grade back here, you might have to put, another table in there or something. But it's going to be crowded no matter what. A lot of your cafeteria workers that work in the cafeteria with the kids can answer this question better because they're in there all the time with them. We're cooking and we're serving them and then we're back cooking. So, we're not really out there with them like the helpers are. But it seems to be the flow's okay. I mean,
One thing I noticed was, and it's so chaotic just yet because they're still trying to get new wiring strung here and there so we can bring refrigerators. We've got refrigerators down here, now our backs over here. I mean, and it's trying to figure out, okay, go get me a thing of juice from the refrigerator. So you go out there to the normal refrigerator, and you're looking at everything of what you need. Well, now you got to come down and around and go to this one, and then you got to go through the whole maze of boxes back here. And that's the big concept right now. It needs to be more of a centralized refrigerator freezer compartment. And if you keep them all over here, that's going to be a major issue.
Thank you.
And I think it's an excellent illustration of kind of what we were talking about. It's not unreasonable to assume that the state might come in, take a look at your existing kitchen and the serving area, and look at the new population load that you're adding and say, that's just not acceptable. You have to expand this in some way that would eat up, $300,000 of the $400 we have allocated for renovation. And so then what do you do? So that's why I'm saying at this point in time, a lot of this is still variable and is going to depend on how that review goes when you have a specific plan for them to actually review. Any other questions on that?
So you are comfortable with that contingency number then?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
So you are comfortable with not just the renovation, but given those possibilities, and you're comfortable with that contingency number?
The honest truth is, I don't even know how to answer that question. I mean, it's a number that was left over after we put the rest of the stuff there. So we allocated what we felt for a reasonable renovation. We allocated what we feel is necessary for the new construction, then that's the number that's left. I mean, we're backing ourselves into a budget. Theoretically, normally we wouldn't have a budget. We would start planning, we would define what the program is, and then build a budget around that. But in our case, we're going at it the opposite direction. So
you're talking about your contingency, right?
Yep.
How much of a percentage that is usually from?
On new construction, it's typically 5%. On renovation construction, it's typically 10%. So, kind of depends on the age of the building, whether there's known things like asbestos or, you know, other hazardous materials that need to be abated, those kinds of things.
So we're not.
I don't think you're too far off. I think the bigger question is going to be, you know, if the referendum is not successful, and this is the direction you go, what position will the state take in terms of how they view equity with this? They may say it's just fine, and then we go with it. They may say you're not even close. So that's really that's the real issue at this point. Yes.
Well, I was looking back through some of our old plans with you, and it just appears that pretty much every plan that I've got in my file here, they were all for the construction, be it an addition, the new construction portion, or the new school, they were just all set at $185. So I guess I'm just a little bit perplexed with the recent change with that.
Well, I don't know how else to answer it other than before we actually get set, we want to make sure on the construction amounts. So we have them independently verified, and they both recommended that, and so that's what we're recommending.
Do you guys go off I pulled up the state guidelines, and it looks like the capital development board, I understand that's something that we had applied for before, I believe, but they have some numbers for this year, and so I looked into those, and as far as building new construction, and it looks like on here, for theirs, their elementary number was 169, their middle school was 185, and their high school was 186. So I just wondered if, you know, that was something you guys would consider.
I actually don't know what's in those numbers, what they include in those numbers, and what they don't include in those numbers, whether that includes site work, how much of that includes, you know, the mechanical systems or what systems they put in, what the quality of the construction is. I simply don't. I don't know that number. I wouldn't feel comfortable with that. I mean, you know, you guys are the board. You can make it whatever number you want at this stage of the game. It really doesn't matter. Again, you've got $4.1 million or you've got 9.8. So.
Well, yeah, but I mean, depending on your per square foot price that you're quoting us, obviously we're going to get more.
Absolutely.
For our buck. So, you know, if that's something that you would consider, I think that's something we should definitely.
Yeah, I professionally and ethically, I could not recommend that. I would stick with the $200. Again, two contractors that have no stake in this at all. We asked them to do it. One of them said 200, the other one said 205. The other buildings that we're building in Minnesota right now, which may not be quite as a one-to-one comparison because the markets are different, are all 210. I just simply wouldn't recommend, and I couldn't recommend professionally to lower the number at this stage of the game.
Are there any questions?
And the rest of the information that we have, I'm just kind of go to the slow responding computer. Oh, we're using one of the school's computers. Anyway, what I was going to say is the rest of the information that we have to share with you, you have in front of you in a packet, which is the new elementary school building option, which is exactly the same as the information that we shared with you the last time, and you also have a more detailed conceptual budget breakdown of that project with you too. So I don't know if there's any additional new information or any questions that you have about that.
On Saturday, will members of the community will they have access to see these?
To what?
On Saturday? community that come, will they have access to CDs? Do you have?
Oh, you mean copies
Yes.
for that? Sure, absolutely. I mean, I don't know how many print, I don't know how many people are going to show up, but we'll print a stack of them, and then I guess if we run out, we run out, so.
The only comment that I have on the budget for the new 9.8 is that I'm not certain, again, I've asked this question, I've really not gotten an answer, but for the existing demolition costs, in the budget that we had last time, the 600,000 is listed. In 9.8 referendum, when we're going to our taxpayers asking them to build a new school, the demolition costs are not included. And that just kind of perplexes me, but I've been told that that was a board, the way we were going, but never did we vote on that not to be included. And when I looked at the 2013 report from the last time that I just saw this past month, it talks about abatement asbestos prior to demolition of the building, and that's at $210,000, which is not part of the $600,000. And if we go to take this out of reserve, someone last week had, or in our last meeting, had talked about us depleting reserves. And that's a concern of mine, because we have yet to bond the needed roofs that need to be done as soon as possible, so they can be done in the summer, which is a bonding thing, which does cause it's an increase to the taxpayers. But I'm just, the 600, we keep throwing around the 600,000, it's not on the referendum. I still don't know why it's not, and again, that number of 600,000, according to this 2013 report, doesn't deal with asbestos or even now the lead issue of abating the lead. So that amount could actually be higher and could actually push us closer to $1 million if you had lead issues as well. So, I mean, it's anywhere from 8 to $1 million.
Probably not. I mean, our number, $600,000, that number anticipated some abatement costs. We actually don't know exactly what they're going to be, but the demolition would be somewhere more like around 300 or so thousand, and then the abatement on top of that. So at least that's what we were told from, again, a couple of these contractors that we talked to. So
yeah, I was hoping that any contractor, if you talk to, you get that $600,000 figure, understood that building had lead and asbestos.
They do, but again, we just don't know what the extent is or how much it would cost. So it's an allowance.
But this is a report that was done, and the $210,000 is not in the $600,000.
Do you have a report from someone that we could see?
I don't, no.
Okay, that's just what I'm just concerned if we're dipping in reserves for that, and it's not part of the referendum, and then again, we're not bonding things out there. I mean, that's coming into the bottom line for the taxpayer, and that's a concern of mine.
So are you suggesting leave the building standing?
No, that's not, that's
Well,
not.
because it's not in the 4.1 million either, so that's a sunk cost, no matter what option you go.
Construction and actually demolitioning down where you're going to build roughly. I'm just surprised that's not included, because we didn't ever say that we weren't going to include it. We never did. We never voted not to include it, and that's the point I'm making. I'm not making a point of why now we go back and change what we've got now. It's a little late, but what I'm saying is, again, this is a decision that's been made that the board didn't really decide, but it's just happened that way, and that's just what I'm pointing out. I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus or anything. I'm just saying that when you go back and look at the 2013 report, you go back and look at the last thing that we had, it does have demolition of 600,000 on it. So that's why I'm asking the question. I'm not pointing fingers, I'm just asking the question.
The night I believe, the night we took the vote to place a referendum on ballot, there were two numbers given. A not to exceed 9.8 bond, build a new school, and the next number is at 10.4. The way I understood that is if we were to determine we could not fit the 600,000 demo costs in the new building, that we were making the statement those would be pulled out of reserves. Out of that 600,000, I believe we've already looked at it, and 200,000 approximately was set aside for asbestos abatement. That was part of that 600,000.
Not according to
I asked you just a little bit ago, and you said no, it's not.
I think they just mentioned that they felt that they could take it down for 600,000 with asbestos, right?
That's the direction we were given from the contractors that we talked to.
Yeah.
I would like to see a report on that because we continue to be told various numbers, but, you know, we have to have something to back that up for support, so.
I have,
If we could get a bid on that.
we got one, we do. We got a bid from Ideal, and I think they did it 3 years ago, and it came in anywhere between 125 and 210. 210 was on the high end.
Okay, that was for the abatement.
Of the asbestos, yeah.
For the asbestos, but that does not address the demolition itself, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
And that was part of Craig Wright's
Yeah.
report to us.
Sure.
It said 500 to 800,000 for the demolition, and then a separate line item was listed as the abatement, which was what, 120 to 200,000 or something?
We got that from Ideal Environmental.
And it's from 2013, that's why I'm asking, because that's why I asked you the specific questions for you in here. And at the time, you said you didn't think the 210, or 210,000 included, or 600,000. That's fine.
I guess we all in agreement that the building needs to come down, that's what we can claim.
Absolutely.
So then can we go ahead and get 3 bids from reputable contractors to take the building down, and then it'll just end the speculation of what the cost is going to be?
Keep in mind, you're gonna have a hard time getting a contractor to do that, because unless you're gonna take legitimate bids to take it down, because then you're asking those contractors to expose their bids, potentially to other contractors.
We don't have to publicly disclose all the bids, just the winning bid. I mean, that's just bid, just like any other process that we would bid out.
Right, and what I'm saying is,
Not getting price. What he's saying is, they would
Get bids, we should bid bids. We're all in agreement it's gonna come down eventually anyway, why not? And there's no speculation, we have hard numbers.
and so let me, just so we're clear here, you want me to solicit bids for demolition of that building from contractors, right?
So then we are confirming 100% at this point that we are not even entertaining the idea of bidding the cost that would be incurred to repair the building or any of that at this point?
Not if you're soliciting demolition bids.
I wouldn't say that, we still don't have to accept the bids.
Well, yeah, why could you not get a bid? A bid does not mean, a bid for demolition does not mean that that's a signed, sealed, and delivered deal.
I'll do whatever you direct me to do. If you want me to get demolition bids, I will.
I think that we've never discussed fully what the remaining options are at this point. We continue to be pushed kind of in a certain direction one way or the other with this, it appears. In fact, I know that it was discussed in the January 28th meeting that specifically when we were asked to vote to allow Chuck and Tom to work further on the presentation for the pre-K through 8 building. At that time, I specifically asked if that meant that that was signing us into that agreement at that moment, that that was our only option, and we were told no, that that was not going to be our only option. So we've never again addressed the issue then from that point forward. It's just been kind of put together as an assumption that the pre-K through 8 is our only option. I think that we owe it to taxpayers to at least have one meeting where we've discussed all of the options and considered all the facts in the situation.
Sure.
As a board, can we all agree that it is not an option to put any more money into that grade school?
We haven't voted yet. I mean,
I know, I'm just saying, is that an option that we can?
I think we should wait until after the referendum before we decide anything.
I agree.
Okay.
Are we going to at least acquire the cost estimates as to what repairs need to be done? If so, if that's something that we could look at. And also, I'd like to address the issue with the high school situation with having the option 6 that was presented to us in the past. It was brought to our attention, I know as recently as November 25th, that was something that was an option that we were considering prior to being hurried into the resolution meeting. And I thought that we were still going to be able to consider that option.
I don't know how we would pay for it. Fire, life, and safety, the money has to follow the children.
So that's the question, since we moved the kids over here now, is that all that?
Similar grade configuration.
And that only happened because of the emergency contingency, is that correct? When it was previously just health and life safety, it was an option to use that money?
Grade configuration has to have a similar grade configuration.
Okay, could I ask, when did you learn of this?
Is this an inquisition, or, I mean, I don't understand where we're going here.
No, but...
That's what I feel like.
But I'm asking for you to be forthcoming with the public, and up until at least
Okay,
December.
I'll be forthcoming with the public, but I feel like it's an inquisition. And to be honest with you, I don't know the exact date when I learned that.
Okay.
I don't.
Well, that's okay. I have information at least as recently as November 25th, you specifically stated to us that you have talked with the state and you believed at that point that those items were going to be included.
At that point I did, that's true.
Okay. So I just would like you to be completely forthcoming with any information that you have.
So I guess you're implying on lying, is that what you're implying? Forthcoming?
Well, in our previous meeting, we were told that there were going to be other options, that would still be on the table, that we could look at other options. And now, we're being faced with coming to this meeting, and now we simply don't have any options to discuss. And I just would like, for myself and for the taxpayers, I think it's only right for me to explain how we got to this point.
I know that you did not know that the high school could not be funded with those
And if I remember correctly, our bond council suggested that we could put an addition at the high school at that time. And that was incorrect. Remember that meeting?
All right, that's enough.
Okay, everything's
Enough.
You guys gotta work forward, we gotta be positive, we gotta move and go.
I agree.
And my question
Nobody's
about-
being positive right now.
But my question about the demolition was not to point fingers at anybody, it's just to ask a question, and that has been answered now, and I'm fine with that. So I do think though, moving forward, we do need to look at, the referendum is out there. If they vote it, great, if they don't, they don't. We're looking at other options, and we're just talking about them. So, and that's what we're supposed to do, and this is the only place we can do it at, okay? We can't call each other and talk on the phone or have a three-way call. This is the place where we talk at. So when people think that we're going one way or the other, that's not the case. We're actually asking questions that maybe answers have come up through other people asking us questions, or other people on the community that have questions about the new referendum. It's nothing that, and this is the place where we're supposed to talk and ask questions. So thank you for answering my question.
And that was only my intent as well. This is our only option to discuss this. And if we are being asked these questions and we are being put on the spot by the public, because at this point, we look as if we are going one direction and not being forthcoming, which puts us in a predicament when we were not aware of these circumstances having changed either. So I'm just simply asking that if that is the case, that we need to spell that out for the public so that we then aren't thrown under the bus in the situation because we weren't previously made aware of that.
I believe you were made aware January 19th, because that was the meeting I was absent. And that's when it was revealed that night that the money had to follow the children. So unless we're considering changing the high school into a grade school, I don't see any point in carrying this any further. This is the cycle.
If some of us entertained that option 6, and it was a good option, we would have to go to referendum to do that.
not get any support from me moving back to the grade school. I think I told somebody earlier over my dead body, and I mean, the money has to follow the students. If it's an addition, I don't see why are we getting kids here? This is the site. I wish we had more money, but this is it. I don't see any sense of getting this horse any farther in the ground.
Okay, can we move on and make a motion? Are you guys done? I'm sorry.
Unless you have any additional questions.
This is proposed to go with these motions here. I guess I want to be clear that we're all clear. This is the same material that you plan on presenting on Saturday, right?
That's exactly correct.
Nobody's surprised that no one takes it.
Plus tax impacts. Plus the bond person will be here to talk about tax and taxes.
I have a question about the new school building plan.
Yes.
The kitchen size, it didn't really have the dimensions on it at all, so I couldn't try to calculate those out. It appears that the kitchen size itself is about 20 by 27. Does that seem about accurate? Okay,
I'll give you a sort of check.
okay.
The kitchen is about 809 square feet, cafeteria about 1048.
Okay. I just wondered on that, okay, thank you. I just wondered, it looks like the only storage for food storage is that, and again, it was just kind of winging it on my calculations here, but it looks like the walk-in cooler area is about